Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Shield, and this is Finding the Guardian of Your Soul. I am so excited to be here today. I think I say that every time, but I really like our topic for today. So give me one moment here. Whoopsie. I want to make sure that everything is good. Um, I think it is. Okay. So I am going to talk today about three beautiful ways to be more authentically feminine. And this is a topic that I think is relevant to almost all women. We can all use more feminine energy. Um, and I just want to say that there's so much stuff out there about being feminine, how to be more feminine, what's masculine. These are masculine behaviors, these are feminine behaviors. And so much of this information is really up here in our heads and doesn't come from our hearts. We're trying to behave, follow a list of criteria, don't do this, don't do that, whatever. And I think anytime we have these lists of things like this is what is masculine behavior and this is what is feminine behavior, and we start to separate things, look, some of you are going to be more direct and more forthright, and that's in your nature. And some of you are going to be more indirect, and that is in your nature. Some of you are going to be softer and whatever. And some of you are going to be more assertive and whatever. So I really want you to take whatever I'm about to say today with a grain of salt. I want you to, excuse me, I want you to take what feels true for you and aligned for you. And I want you to throw away the rest. But I do want you to be open to looking at yourself and asking, could I go a little more this way? Could I go a little more that way? But I really want this to be something that feels natural and authentic for you. So please know I'm giving you suggestions, I'm giving you guidelines, but I am not telling you that it's one way or another, that you have to do this, that being feminine means you have to be this way or you have to be that way. I'm an incredibly strong woman. That is something that I could never get away from, even if I wanted to. It is in my nature. It is who I am at my core. In fact, for what it's worth, when I was working with Don Miguel Ruiz, he was my teacher for many, many years. And I was in a community of lovely people who were all on a spiritual path. We met Don Miguel before he ever wrote the Four Agreements. And Miguel said to me, "You're a woman of power." He didn't say you're a powerful woman. He said you are a woman of power. And those words really resonated for me. They really did. People can project on you, they can tell you all kinds of things, and we may hear what we want to hear. But those words struck stuck with me because something in my soul connected with being a woman of power. And he also added to that, "You frighten men." And I do think that there's some truth in that, in that I'm not a game player. I never have been. Um, I used to really be turned off by how I saw other women around me behaving with men when I was growing up. especially in junior high and in high school. I watched other girls with guys or boys, and it was really a turnoff for me to see how they acted because it felt disingenuous. And I thought to myself, if that's how I have to be, I don't want to be a woman. And it didn't mean I wanted to be a man either, don't get me wrong. But I do think I took on a lot of masculine behaviors because I hadn't seen anybody who could model for me what it meant to be a strong feminine woman and somebody that I wanted to emulate. I just couldn't find that role model, not my mother, not my grandmother. They were very subservient and manipulative with men, game playing. Um, I never saw a woman who showed up with a man in a relationship that I admired and said, that's what I want. So I saw maybe pieces of it, but so much of this too was really external. I learned a lot about how to dress, what to wear, how to, fix my hair and do all of these externally feminine things. But it was the more internal things that I wasn't seeing. And so I also saw, by the way, a lot of disrespect for men. My mother hated my father. He left her for another woman when I was probably about 8 years old, and it crushed her soul. And she became very angry, very vindictive. And I never got to see that relationship mature. I never saw them come around because my mother wound up dying of breast cancer when I was 15. And so I never got to see her mature. She was 39 when she died, and I never saw my mother in a healthy relationship, and I never saw my father in a healthy relationship. So I had no modeling there. And my grandmother, my mother's mother, who I went to live with, she was an incredible woman. I really loved her. We called her Mimi, and I loved my grandmother with all my heart. But she also didn't really model for me what it means to be a strong feminine woman. So these were things I had to learn and discover for myself. And I feel proud. I just want to say that I feel so proud of the woman I've become and the relationship I have with my husband, and also for the love and respect and compassion I've developed towards men, because I didn't have a lot of that growing up. I actually had men were very strange and foreign to me. I didn't know how to connect with them in a healthy way as a woman. I knew how to play games and I knew how to get a man's attention with sex and all, but not make a strong emotional connection with a man. So let's talk about some of these beautiful ways to be authentically feminine, ways that make me feel good. And I know my clients, when they do my 12-week emotionally naked dating program, I can see them blossom as they learn these skills because they feel so natural, so authentic, so aligned for them, even if they are CEOs of companies or single mothers or whatever. Even if they are strong, successful, independent women, it seems that these skills are skills that they're able to embrace and actually have fun with and that feel so natural to them. So the first one I'm going to talk about is slowing down. Slowing down. As women, we're so busy rushing, going here and there and multitasking, doing a million things. And it really is exhausting for men. I know many women who pride themselves on being multitaskers and being able to do a million things and have full calendars and be scheduled all day, every day, and have one thing after another to do on a weekend. Many women I know do not know how to relax. They do not know how to be still. Sure, they may go into a yoga class and, and they hit the gong and they, say Om for a few minutes, and then they race right back out and go to the next thing and the next thing and pick up the kids and go to work and do this thing, that thing. And they're constantly rushing around, filling every moment of time. And this is exhausting for men. It really is. Men tend not to be multitaskers. They don't love to schedule things. They're busy all day at work, so they have a schedule when they're at work. And they really appreciate a woman who can slow down and just be. Now, we love to go and do and have a date planned and have a man put a lot of thought into where we're going to go and what we're going to do. Some men are going to plan really nice dates for you. They're going to put time into those things, and they're going to take you to an event or a nice dinner or whatever. But many, many, many men are not going to sit and plan full days. They may do it here and there because they know women love that. They love a man with a plan. But many men are not planners. They're at work all day. They have to be present. And men really are one-track minded. So let's talk about that for a second. Why are men one-track minded? Why do women multitask and men are one-track minded? I would love to hear from listeners if they know the genesis, any of you, if you can comment or let me know. But it really is true that men have their evolution, the way that they have evolved is to be one-track minded. Their brains have developed that way. And it's not just like, oh, this is how men are. This really does, there's reasons for why they are this way. So I will share with you that back in the day, in our early development, so they're wired to be linear thinkers. And the question is why? Why are they wired that way? Because there's a reason. They didn't just end up this way. It didn't just turn out that the female brain developed to multitask and the male brain developed, it's not just like that's just the way we are. There's a very real reason for this. In our early growth and development, there are reasons for why this was so. So I'm curious, my audience here, my devoted listeners, if anybody actually knows why that is. So men were the hunters. Women stayed and cooked and gathered and raised the children. This is back in the day when we lived in communities, when we were cave people or nomadic people. So exactly. So men were out hunting. And when you're hunting, what happens? You're strategic. That's correct. They don't talk. They don't speak. They have to be silent. And they're tracking. And they're hyper-focused. Could you imagine women out being hunters and talking and chatting and having to say something every 2 seconds? No, men had to be focused. They had to pay attention. They signaled each other. They didn't communicate other than through sign language. they would point, they would track. So men learned how to be linear and one track minded because they were hunters. Women, on the other hand, were raising the children, they were cooking with the other women, and they were watching the children out of the corner of their eye. So they were multitasking. They were doing many different things at once because even if they were preparing food and doing one thing, they still had to watch the children out of the corners of their eyes. And here's what's also very interesting, just FYI, for all of you who find this scientific information interesting. Women have much better peripheral vision. We can see much better peripherally. Men have much better distance vision, much clearer. They're better drivers at night, and they see further. Women see broader because we were watching kids out of the corners of our eyes. And so that's how we got to be this way. This is how our brains have developed. One of the reasons historically men have loved sports is because that little ball that they're chasing around a tennis court or a football field or a soccer field is like chasing an animal. They're strategic, they have strategies, they work together in a team, and they're tracking the ball or an animal together. So interesting stuff. But men get overwhelmed by women who are too busy, who are too fast and busy and feel chaotic to them. So one of the most feminine things a woman can do is slow down. Breathe, speak slower. Men don't think as fast as we do. When you're with a man and you ask him a question, very often women, because we answer so quickly, we think a man isn't paying attention or he doesn't care if he doesn't come back with an answer right away. Stop. Start counting in your head. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. It can take a man 30 seconds to come up with an answer. Start to become more comfortable with silence. This is how we slow down and make room for a man when he's with us, to give him space and to understand that they don't think as quickly, they don't formulate answers as fast as we do. They like to think about something and then come up with an answer. I have a wonderful story about my Uncle Sid. One day I asked him a question. My Aunt Ruth was an incredibly attractive, alluring woman who men loved. And I asked him one day, I said, Uncle Sid, why do men love Aunt Ruth? And it was literally a full 24 hours later that he came back to me with an answer. And he said it was the cutest thing in the world. This was my great uncle. And he said, I've been thinking about your question that you asked about your Aunt Ruth and why men are so drawn to her. And he had spent literally an entire day thinking about that one question. And he came back to me with an answer. So men don't always just spout off answers off the top of their minds. They stop and think things through. And real men may take some time and need some space. There is a beautiful scene in in a movie called Baby Driver. And Anson Elgort is sitting in a little cafe, like a diner. And I can't remember, but Lily, one of the Lilies, maybe somebody here can put this in, can remind me who the female star of that was. she's walking, she has her headphones in, and she's the waitress in this diner. And she's walking into the diner, listening to the music. And she's just moving slowly and listening to the music. And it is such a beautiful scene. And he looks up and he is mesmerized as he's watching her walk through the diner. It's really beautiful. It's a beautiful illustration of a woman who's sensual and in her body and moving slowly, and how that's literally like honey for a man. So slow down, walk slower, speak slower. Give men time and space to think when they're around you. Breathe more. So the second thing we're going to talk about, the second way to be more authentically feminine, is to make every request an invitation. So when you want to ask something from a man, when there's something you feel that you want from him, you want more of, you want to make it a request, and you want to make it inviting, an invitation. So you would never say to a man, why don't you ... Why don't you take out the trash? Why don't you text me in the morning, every morning like you used to? Why don't you? The first thing that happens in a man's mind is he feels shame. He feels like he's let you down, like he's disappointed you. And if a man really cares about you, if he really likes you, he wants to make you happy. He wants to impress you. He wants to be your hero. And he wants to make you feel cherished and adored. Now, life gets in the way. A man may be texting every morning and every night when he first meets you. And after a while, he may feel like, okay, she's my girlfriend now, we're dating, and I don't need to keep doing that. For a lot of women, when they feel those or see those fluctuations in the connection or in a man's behavior, they start to worry. They start to think, oh my God, is he pulling away? Does he not like me as much? Why isn't he texting me like he used to? Why isn't he saying good night and good morning when he did that for the first 2 or 3 months of our relationship? Is it because he doesn't care? Maybe he's met someone else, and doubt starts to seep in. And then you go to the guy and you say, you haven't been texting me in the morning and in the night, and I wanted to know if something's wrong. Now, a guy is going to be like, oh my God, like, what? I guess I haven't been, but we talk throughout the day now. We're texting, we're in communication, we're seeing each other. I didn't realize that that was still important to you. But he is also going to feel badly or feel shame, because when you say it that way, he's going to feel that he let you down and that he disappointed you. He failed you somehow. And what's really sad is he didn't even get the memo. He didn't know that he was supposed to keep texting you morning and night, because you never had a conversation about it. And there you were feeling horrible, and nothing was wrong, but he caused you to feel badly. So this is how a lot of interactions go. There's many women who have a lot of things that they want, ways that they feel cherished and adored, and they want a man to pursue them, and they have a very specific way that should look for them. And so you have to learn how to ask for what you want from a man, and to do it in a very inviting way, a way that makes it seem easy for him to do. Because when you ask it in the right way and you make it a request and an invitation, a man who really is into you is going to say, oh, okay, if this is a way that I can make her happy, sure, why not? So instead of saying, why haven't you? The way you make it a request and an invitation is to say, I love it when I wake up in the morning to a text from you. It makes me so happy when. I love a man who, you would be my hero if. These are catchphrases, like it or not. Maybe you think, oh my God, I would feel so silly saying those things. I would get over that fast because this really works with men. They eat it up. The right guy is going to put his hands together and say, thank you, God. This is a woman who knows how to ask for what she wants without shaming me, lecturing me, making me feel like a little boy, talking down to me. This is a woman who knows how to talk to a man. I know it sounds silly, but let's put this in perspective. How many of us love it when a man tells us we look beautiful, tells us how sweet we are, does thoughtful things for us because he knows that it makes us feel cherished and adored? We love those things, and men probably roll their eyes. I would bet that there's a lot of eye rolling going on out there on the part of men when it comes to us, where they're like, oh my God, I know she loves hearts and flowers on Valentine's Day. You know, I'm going to do it because I know it makes her happy. I don't get it, but I'm going to do it. So keep in mind that it goes both ways. A great guy is going to do the things that you ask him to do. And if you ask him in the right way, he's going to be tripping over himself to do those things. When I was single, or when I was married in my first marriage, my husband did very little for me. And I prided myself on being a woman who wasn't needy, that I didn't, I saw other women who were needy and they expected men to do all these things. And I prided myself on not being that way. But there was a part of me that wanted men to do those things, that wanted a man to want to do those things for me. And so I did feel badly inside because my ex-husband didn't give me gifts and he didn't go out of his way to do some of the things that I saw other men doing for other women. And I had to acknowledge first that I really did want a man to do these things for me, even if I could do them for myself. I wanted a man to want to treat me to lovely things. I wanted a man to think about ways to make me happy. And what I realized was that I never asked for anything and I never expected or wanted anything. And if you do that, men are going to go along in relationships and think, well, she's so self-sufficient and she seems happy with the way things are. So why wreck a good thing? If it's working and she's not complaining or saying anything, it looks like she's happy. And they're just going to take it on face value that it's all good. So if you want a man to do things for you, you've got to put it out there in an inviting way. You have to make it a request. One of the very first things my husband ever did for me, I wasn't even really thinking about this as a request or whatever, but I said to him that my dream was to go with a partner to Greece, that I had been to Greece when I was younger. When I graduated college, I went with my brother. And I said, I just would love to go back there. It's the most romantic place I've ever been, and I'd love to go with a guy, with a partner, someone I was in love with. I would love to share that. And the very first gift, real gift my husband gave me, other than um, Christmas time, he surprised me with the most beautiful trip to Greece, and he had planned everything. This is a very, very funny story. He had his assistant go out and get us some Mediterranean food. And he was so proud of himself. We sat down to dinner, and he handed me a little velvet jewelry box, one of those little blue velvet ring boxes. And I thought, oh, wow, maybe he got me some diamond earrings or something. And I was so excited. I opened up the box, and inside was a little ripped piece of wax paper folded over. And when I opened it up, inside was some Crisco in the middle of this wax paper. And I thought to myself, where are the diamond earrings? And Benjamin kept saying, and I looked at Benjamin, I was trying to be excited, and I looked at him and he said, I got you Greece. And I looked at the Crisco and I looked at him and he said, I got you Greece. 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 And I'm looking and I'm thinking, is this a special kind of lubricant? I had no idea what he was talking about. And he just said, hold on, wait a second. And he ran and he brought in 2 first-class round trip tickets to Athens and the itinerary for this beautiful, I think it was 10 or 14-day trip to the Greek islands that he had planned out for us. So he said, I got you Greece. But it was hysterical. But I had never thought that I was a woman who deserved those things. And I have learned Benjamin would do anything in the world for me. It is very, very important if you want this kind of relationship. You absolutely must learn how to open up, ask, plant seeds, make requests, and see how these men respond. Do they listen? Do they do the things that you're asking for? Because a man who really is interested in you and interested in having a relationship with you, he is going to start to do those things. And it can be very small things. You can say, oh, wow, there's this movie that I've been dying to see. I just haven't been able to carve out the time, or I couldn't find anybody who wanted to go see it with me, and see if he gets tickets. Little things like that. There's this hike that I've heard is really wonderful. I'm not a hiker, by the way, but there's this hike that I would love to go on that a friend of mine was telling me about. Or gosh, I haven't been to the beach in ages. It would be so much fun just to have a day at the beach and then sit back and see what somebody does. Does he really take you up on these things? It would make me so happy just to go to the beach and have a day off. I love the water. I love being by the water. So mentioning these little things that you would like to do, and then seeing if a man picks up the ball and runs with it. That's the sign of a man who really does want to get to know you. And if you don't make these requests, you'll never know first if he's the kind of guy that will do these kinds of things for you. And you're never going to learn how to do this. You're going to be longing for a man to do these things for you, but you have to learn how to do it in a loving way. And I will tell you, again, there's nothing Benjamin won't do for me. Nothing. And I almost can't say something because if I do, he'll do it. I once wound up with a Jaguar XK in my driveway on my birthday because I admired that car and he went out and got it for me. And the truth was, I wound up selling it a year later. It was the most beautiful car I've ever seen, but we didn't need two cars. And we both worked from home, and it was crazy to have two really nice cars when we barely drove that one. So yeah, start making requests. Slow down. Make every request an invitation. I would love it if it would make me so happy. You would be my hero if it really turns me on when a guy lets me know 3 days before the date that we're on, that he confirms it and lets me know we're still on. I love that confirmation from a man. It lets me know that he's thinking about me. Make sense? And then the third way of being feminine, and this is way more important than any of you will ever know, and I encourage you to get good at this. You have to learn how to compliment men. Compliment and acknowledge them. Men need compliments and they need feedback just as much as we do. There is something really wrong, I feel, in dating advice today where women are really taught that men are supposed to do everything. They're supposed to ask us out. They're supposed to confirm the date. They're supposed to plan the date. They're supposed to pay for the date. And God forbid they make a move or they try to kiss you or touch you or make an inappropriate move or advance too soon. God help them. And we just show up and look pretty. And then we go home and we gossip and we tell our girlfriends how horrible it was or how all he did was talk about himself or fill in the blank. But we have it wired, or we're wired today, that through all of these bad messages that we've received, that men are supposed to do everything. A man will do those things. A gentleman will treat you like a woman and like a lady. And I should only hope that you will all find partners and men who do those things for you. But it is just as important that you give back. There must be reciprocity. And so, how does a feminine woman give back? Well, first of all, you have to know that if a man is on a date with you, if he has asked you out, he already finds you physically attractive. Men will not date women if they are not physically attracted to them. I have worked with all kinds of men. I have coached men for many, many, many years, and I can tell you that it is like twisting their arm to try to get them to go out with a woman who they do not find physically attractive. I once had an Asian client, big, tall, muscled, good-looking Asian man, and he really had a thing for blonde, white American, Barbie doll, blue-eyed women. And a lot of those women were not attracted to him. They just were not attracted. And I said to him, why do you not approach women who are Asian, who are from your culture? First of all, you're going to have way more in common with them. And there are some stunningly beautiful Asian women who would be great matches. And we went around in circles. He would not open his mind. Later, much, much later, probably 2 years later, I got an email from him and he said, Lisa, I finally started dating Asian women. He said, the love of my life is a beautiful Asian woman. I am crazy about her. She is incredible, but I couldn't twist his arm and get him to go out with women who were from a similar background and culture. It just wasn't wired into him. I've also had male clients who were, little tiny guys who were not the most attractive men themselves, but they would not message women online that they did not find beautiful. So just know that if a man is on a date with you, he finds you physically attractive. But what you need to do is show this man that he can also find you emotionally attractive. And the way you do this is by complimenting and acknowledging him and doing what we call mirroring his masculinity back to him. You will only ever get really good at this by practicing. It's the only way to do it well, and it has to be genuine and from the heart. So you can't just say nice things, and it can't come from here. It has to come from here. And these compliments have to be genuine. So what you really want to do is listen carefully to what this man is saying, because very often when men are telling stories, they're not just telling you a story of something that happened. They're trying to show you who they are, how they look at the world through that story. So when a man is telling you about his work, when he's telling you about an incident from his life, he's not just talking to talk and just to tell you information. Hidden in those stories are his values, what his worth is, what is meaningful to him. And so you want to listen to those stories so that you can really hear who this man is, because he's trying to tell you through those stories, this is who I am, this is what I value, this is how I operate, this is how I show up in the world, this is the kind of husband I am, this is the kind of father I am, this is the kind of businessman I am. But they're telling you who they are and what they value. So the way you can mirror a man's masculinity and compliment and acknowledge him on those dates is not just by saying, wow, and oh, and that's wonderful, and all. That's not an acknowledgement. Wow, you're an amazing father. Any little boy would be so lucky to have you as his dad. I've never heard a son do something like that for his mother. You're really there for her. I hope you feel proud of the kind of son you are. Sometimes my husband says something really wise, and I will say, oh my God, you are the wisest man I know. I am so proud that you're my husband. I love hearing how you think. Now, all of this is genuine. And if you hung out with Benjamin and me, you would hear me say things like this constantly to him. Constantly. Because I love him, and I don't just love him. I make love to him through my words and through my observations and through the way I mirror back to him the kind man I see him being. And if you don't think men eat this stuff up, try it. Try it. Just try it. Try it on your brother. Try it on your father. Try it on your male friends or on some of your colleagues, and you will start to see men lining up to do things for you and to get those compliments and those acknowledgments, because men don't get enough of that. Most men, they're trying to achieve and prove their worth, and they do it through how much they earn and how much money they make and how high they can go at work and up the corporate ladder. But what they do that for is so that they can have the love and the respect from the woman they love and adore. So that's how you make a man feel like a man. And you need to go on your dates and start practicing this. I was going through profiles. One of the women who's in my mastermind group, she's adorable. And we were going through her Hinge today. And there was a guy who had written some really lovely things on his Hinge profile. And, we saw a lot of guys who just wrote the stupidest, most inane responses that they may have thought were clever or cute, but they were ridiculous. It didn't matter what their jobs were, how successful they were, and pictures of them mugging the camera. And we were cracking up because every guy had a picture, not with a fish, but with him and a baby or a kid that wasn't his. It was insane. And so we were looking at the Hinge profiles, and there was this one guy who really had, written some things about what he was looking for in a partner and how he wanted a partner and the kind of relationship he wanted. And she messaged him and said, "I really love what you wrote about relationships." And he wrote back and said, "I love what you wrote." And then he made another comment, a further comment about what he was looking for in a relationship. And she said to me, "Well, should I just send him my, say, would you like to get on a Zoom call or something?" And I said, "No." And we wrote him a message complimenting and acknowledging him. And she wrote, I had her send him, thank you for that beautiful response. So few men take the time to be as deep or thoughtful in their responses as you were. And then she said, in a very feminine way, she didn't say, "Let's jump on a Zoom call." She said, "If you asked me for my number, I would gladly give it to you." So that was also part of what we call taking the feminine lead. She did not say, "Let's get on a call," because that's how a man would say it. But if you were going to do it in a feminine way, you want to do it in a way that will get him to ask you, but to let him know that if he does, you're not going to reject him. You set it up so that if you were to ask me for my number, I would gladly give it to you. So what she's saying is, please ask me for my number. I'd love to jump on a call, or I'd love to get off the site. But she's doing it in a feminine way. She's making a request. She's not telling him what to do. Men like to be the initiators. And they also love to think that they have a choice. There's only one woman on the planet who tells a man what to do, and that's his mother. So every time you tell a man what he should and shouldn't do, he starts to see you as his mother or as a mother, and you stop being feminine and sexy. You want him to see you as a girlfriend and even as a wife. All right, everybody, that's what I've got for you today. So the 3 things were to slow down, to make every request an invitation, and what was the third one? I was just saying it. Oh my goodness. That is so funny. So, 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 so funny. The third one was to to compliment and acknowledge a man. All right. My name is Lisa Shield. This has been my pleasure to spend this time with you. I will be doing another very special broadcast tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. If you want to tune in for that, I would love to see you there as well. Mark it on your calendar. I also would like for you to please join us on Sundays for Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. Those are the episodes I do with my husband, Benjamin, and he always has some incredible, insightful things to say. Um, Please tell everyone you know, your mothers, your sisters, your nieces, your girlfriends, and even tell your guy friends and your fathers and your brothers and your sisters, everybody you know about these broadcasts. We are saying something in a very different way than other coaches and mentors are saying it. We want you to find not just a guy, not just a girl, but a guardian of your soul. That's what's possible today. So let us help you. Please go to lisashield.com, look for my uh, link to watch my 45-minute presentation. If you like what you see, stay to the end. That's where you can book a call with me or a member of my team. And if you have suggestions, send them to podcast@lisashield.com. Please give me a thumbs up or a heart if you like this broadcast. You can also like and rate my podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We put out an episode a week. And then also, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Again, I'm Lisa Shield, and I wish you a beautiful, happy, love-filled day. Bye-bye.